Ryan, and I'm going to take a crack at ranking all of the main characters for the mainline Final Fantasy games. So, to say mainline, I mean I'm not going to be doing things like Crystal Chronicles or Type Zero or even the sequels, few that there are. I just don't really want to dig into that, and it kind of muddies the water a bit. As you can see in the rankings, there is an NA section. So I'll explain each of those as I get to them. I have beaten multiple times for most of them, every mainline Final Fantasy game except for two. Um, those are for different reasons, and some of that will be gone here. And so this ranking is going to be entirely about the main character. So when I'm ranking a main character, I'm looking at how well do they meet the archetype that the character is designed to fit, how well written are they, um, and also I'm looking at how important and relevant is that main character to the plot. A great story will have multiple important characters, a whole party of characters. Is part of what makes the Final Fantasy series iconic. The main character does need to be a major driving force behind the story for me to go, that's a great main character. You can have a great story that has a great cast and ensemble and not have an elite, like top tier main character, but everybody's good and the writing's fantastic and it works. But in this case, like you're not going to be put at the top if it doesn't meet those criteria. Obviously, it's all my personal opinion, but I have actually personally played every one of these games, and I've beaten all of these, um, except for two, and technically the two MMOs. But you never beat an MMO, so that doesn't count. Um, we're going to start at the bottom. We're going to work our way up to the top as we go through the list here. So first we have our NAs. I am putting one, two, and three here. They didn't really have main characters until like the recent remasters, and even then, the plot's pretty bare bones, and there isn't enough here to be like, oh yeah, that's the main character. That's what everything is built around. That's what we should go off of. That would be a little disingenuous to put it that way. So I am going to put all three of these games in the NA category just because, like, main character wise, I'm going to do other videos and other lists for this series. I actually have quite a number planned because it's fun and I'm going to do it. But for main characters specifically, one, two, and three, they don't belong. And then for the same reason, I am putting 11 and 14. 11 actually has quite a good story, and 14 has an excellent story. And when I do the story ranking videos, spoiler alert, the stories will actually be included there, and both will do quite well. But while technically the Warrior of Light is the main character of 14, there's also 50 million of them. So having them as the main character, I feel like it's difficult. Like if I was just saying the character themselves and the plot and where they're written in, it's elite. Like straight up, it's elite. I'm putting it here purely because it's an MMO, and I don't like putting it up at the top because it's an MMO. Personal opinion, but the writing of the Warrior of Light story, elite, like no contest. Now let's get into the bads. I have only two main characters in the bad category. The first one is Vaughn, however you say his name. Doesn't matter because no one cares. One of the main criteria for being a good main character, you have to be important to the plot. Van and Pinello could be completely removed from Final Fantasy XII, and the entire story would happen exactly the same way. Nothing changes. You can tell the exact same story with all those characters, and I'll get into how I feel about 12's story and game systems in other videos. Um, it's not good. Like it's not good at all, and it's entirely from the perspective of like he does not matter. He is completely irrelevant to the story. There's nothing wrong with him. Like the archetype he is, like kind of the street urchin. Like he's not really like the plucky, like spunky, like Aladdin style, like street urchin, like stereotype. But like he's a little feisty and like he's got a heart of gold and like he's fine. But like that's all he really is. Like he wants to be a sky pirate, but he doesn't really even know what that is. Like he's just a poor kid who's trying to get better in life. Nothing wrong with that. Come from that. But like he's irrelevant. The other um bad is Noctis. And I know this game has fans. I doubt any of them will watch this. If you do, you're allowed to be wrong. Noctis is a terrible main character. I am fully aware of what happens at the later portions of the game and how elements of both his character and the story at large get saved. Um, I don't even think it's entirely like the game directors and everybody's fault. Like the development cycle for 13 verses slash 15 slash whatever the hell that final result ended up being was so brutal and convoluted, like it never had a chance. But he's a terrible main character. He is incredibly important to the plot. It's just unfortunate that he doesn't know that until you're like 60% of the way through the game. This is one of the two games I haven't beaten, but I have actually seen all the endings, most of the cutscenes. I know enough of what happens to firmly stand by my position. A character cannot be just ass for 60% of a game, and then you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good main character. Just because like the ending is like, okay, well that actually like you did some stuff there. The first 5 hours of this game basically sets his tone. Like he's an idiot. He's a dumb character. Like in context of this world, he's dumb. He's very like mopey and like just like no energy, just laissez faire, doesn't really care. But the circumstances of the world that he's in and what's happening and what happens literally right before the game starts should make that impossible. Look, I understand he's a great. If your favorite band is 3 Days Grace, I'm sure you love him, but I hate everything about him, and I don't care if no one gets that joke. It was still kind of funny. Um, we're now going to get to, as I work my way through the list. Before I get to Cecil, I'm going to put Bart in. He's fine. Like he's fine. Five, and the only reason I'm skipping ahead here is because I'm going to talk a lot more about Cecil in a second. Five is just kind of a slightly worse version of four, where like you have a slightly better villain, but an overall worse cast and a worse story. But like it's very much like we took the formula and we remixed it and we just did it again. I think nothing wrong with it. I like five, but like if we're just ranking main characters, like Bart's is fine. He's fine, but he's fine. Cecil is like I need like a middle ground between these two. If and this will set precedent for another one further down the line. If I was going to put Cecil and Kane together as the main character of four, he would be in the elite tier, and it wouldn't be particularly close. Like there would just be no contest about it. It doesn't have to be an original story. But it's a damn good story told incredibly well. Cecil and Kane's story together is elite. That is video games and storytelling at its finest. And I just don't really see a need to argue around that because it's like that's just true. Even if you don't like it, like it's incredibly well done. I recently got the 2D 3D remaster on Steam and played that, and it holds up just as well as it did a decade plus ago the first time I played it. Cecil is very good. If I was putting him and Kane together, they would be elite, but I'm really trying to reserve elite for main characters that meet every single one of my criteria. And we'll see how you guys feel about those. Why is he here twice? Oh, that's because we have another. I moved the wrong one. That makes sense. That is actually the graphic. Actually, is Cecil and Kane, but we're only counting Cecil here. So if you know me, you know I have very strong opinions about six. Um, I feel how I feel. There are two Final Fantasy mainline games I was never able to get through. One is 15, one is 6. For the reasons of uh, I have not beaten this game, and six doesn't totally have a main character. Like to a certain degree, the main character of six is Kefka, which is kind of its problem. But I got like 8 hours into six and got so bored I stopped playing. Like there was nothing in this game for the first several hours that was interesting or intriguing or worth all the unconscionable amounts of hype online around this game that made me try it out. Um, but giving any type of ranking to Terra would not be fair because I have not beaten the game. I can't call her fine because I don't know well enough, but like my opinion of it would basically be like that's kind of the tier she goes. I don't think she's a bad character. I think there's only two bad main characters in Final Fantasy games, mainline games. But yeah, not impressed. That does bring us though to Cloud, and Cloud is our first elite. I was initially very tempted to put Cloud in the very good bucket. Um, but the more I thought about it, and then the more I realized I've played Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus and Remake and Rebirth and watched Advent Children 400 fucking times. Yeah, when you look at all of that and you look at the actual character himself and how he is presented in the plot and the arcs the character goes through, he's a lot more than just a blase, pseudo stoic, kind of socially awkward super soldier. In fact, all of those negative attributes are revealed. Spoiler alert if you haven't played this game in 30 years it's been out, that he's not actually that person. And it's all him with very good reasons of him to have a lot of trauma and have a little bit of a psychological breakdown. He thinks he's being someone else and he's doing his best impersonation of what he thinks that thing would be. Funny enough, the person he's impersonating has the exact polar opposite personality, which is again like kind of part of that story. And it's so iconic and it's so well written and it's so well done. I am going to do a character list for like each of the games that I have played here over the next several weeks, couple months, however long this takes me. And the seven cast will be incredibly well graded. It's one of the better casts, top to bottom, in the series history. I'll leave that there for now, but don't expect a lot of stuff down here for seven and Cloud. I think he's the second best written character. Um, in seven. Spoiler, it's not Sephiroth. And I think he's absolutely an elite main character. There is a big chunk of the internet that will put Squall here. Um, I am almost tempted to put him here. I am going to split the difference and put him at fine, but under protest. I actually think Squall is a much better character than people give him credit for. I know that he kind of gets characterized on the internet as like the edgy boy, which part of that's just like the outfits and like look, it was the late '90s, early 2000s, like the, they were having fun. A lot of the main characters look like this. Let it go. Um, you kind of have to contextualize Squall. This is an orphan raised in a military academy who is a absolute top of his class, super elite, surrounded by some of the dumbest people you've ever imagined in your entire life, who are supposed to be his teammates and also super elites, but they are weapons grade stupid. Zell's mere existence should bump Squall up 2 levels because he managed to save the world and Zell exists. Like I actually like don't hate Zell as a character within his archetype, but I hate that archetype if that makes sense. Like I don't think he's a bad version of that, but I would also like to drown like the entire category. Like, he's an idiot. You see somebody walking around who's supposed to be a super soldier and like they get triggered by the words chicken wuss, like you should just drown that person and move on. They're gonna get you killed. Um, Even like jokes aside though, like when you actually dig into the story, Squall is a much better character than I think a lot of people give him credit for. A lot of people remember because it's been a long time since they played the game. One of the things that I think does hurt eight, 7, 8, 9, 10 is like an absurd run. Like the list of studios that have had a 4 game run like that in like gaming history is incredibly short. Like the only one I can think of off the top of my head is Bungie with Halo 1, 2, 3, and Reach. Like it is incredibly hard to have a 4 game run that good, and eight being the worst one of the bunch is still a damn good game, but it's also like they were developing basically all of these games at the same time, and some stuff got cut. And I think that some of the writing, definitely some of the localization, and some of the content for eight got cut for probably some technical reasons, but also probably some timing reasons, and it made it not as good as it should have been. And again, I'll do more about like each game's characters and all the different game stories, just looking at the story and that stuff. But like purely as a main character, like Squall is fine. He should be very good. I think if the game was executed better, he would be. But I think he's fine. Um, Zidane is like floating again, like right between elite and very good. I'm going to put him very good because Cecil, I think, is a better main character than Zidane, like especially the Cecil King combo. And if I didn't put Cecil up there, I'm not putting Zidane up there. Um, Zidane is an excellent main character from a writing perspective, from a delivery perspective, from a like fitting the archetype perspective, like happy-go-lucky character with a tragic background. Like Nine's a dark game. Um, Zidane is a breath of fresh air. Like if you play 7, 8, 9, 10 in a row, Zidane is like one of only like 4 people across the entirety of those 4 games who like has a habit of smiling, and like Zell and Walker are annoying as shit. So like your list of people that smile is pretty small. Um it actually does, like I think it does matter the fact that like he's a positive character in a very dark world, and even as like his tragic backstory, gets revealed and he deals with depression and identity and self discovery and all these things, like he still finds himself in the end. And like I think the ending's really well done and great. I think all the core elements of Zidane's character, not only is he extremely vital to the plot, but I think he helps carry the story and he helps balance the overall story and the cast in ways that other archetypes of characters wouldn't have done as well. So he hovers right between like very good and elite to me. Like if this is a 90, he's like an 89.4, but we are not rounding up, as all my professors told me when I didn't turn in my homework. Um, so this one will probably shock some people who know me. I did not put Titus in the elite tier because I'm not ranking the game story yet. We'll get there later. This is very similar to Cecil. If this was Titus and Yuna, it would be elite. And if anybody wants to argue with that, you can slap yourself, replay the game, and then shut up because you're wrong. Um, if Yuna was the cover art main character of 10, I would put her in elite. Like Yuna is one of the best main characters in a video game ever. Not just in Final Fantasy. You look at the arc of her story, the execution of it, the writing, like Yuna hits you in the feels repeatedly. And Titus does too, but like Titus, he's not dissimilar from Noctis in some ways. Like Noctis is an idiot, but Noctis is an idiot with no excuse. Titus being an idiot is a very important part of the plot. It is a central part of his character and a central part of the story. And that reveal is one of the bigger punches in the nads that happens like in any Final Fantasy game. But certainly in that one. And 10 is another pretty dark game. Like it's very colorful, it's very beautiful, it's a very pretty game, but the story not at all. You have bad churches and zombie people and people being eaten and killed and backstabs, and like that is not a happy game. I love it. It's my favorite, but it's not a happy game. But I think Titus is a very, very, very good main character. But I can't give Cecil Kane, so I cannot give Titus Yuna, and so neither of them end up in elite. And now we have two games left to rank. How controversial do I want to be? So I actually do stand by everything that I'm about to say. I'm not just going for clicks or trying to be a smartass. But there's a lot of people out there that won't agree with either of these, and like I don't care. It's my opinion. I'll explain it, and you can decide in comments in your own videos and content and whatnot how much you disagree and how strongly you do so. I am putting Lightning in the elite category. We will get into stories and game mechanics and design decisions and some of that other stuff in later videos. As a main character, Lightning is the better version of Cloud. Lightning is literally what Cloud is pretending to be. Lightning is the evolved form of Zack if he had his own full game as the best version of himself. Lightning, throughout the course of the game, has a maternal role, a big sister role, a commander role, a super soldier role. She is literally a soldier who is surrounded by a bunch of civilians put in impossible circumstances that she not only has to try to help find a way to survive, she has to deal with her absolute moron of a potential brother-in-law, one of the dumbest children ever put into a video game ever. God, I hate you, Hope. That's not a spoiler when I do when I rank the characters of 13. I'll give you guys a heads up. Hope's gonna be bad. God, I hated that character. I used to get him into combat, get him killed, then finish fights. That's how much I didn't like Hope as a character, okay? She had to deal with that and didn't have to break the core parts of the character. I genuinely believe that a lot of the people who dislike Lightning are like, oh, well, she was just bitchy, just struggle with the idea of strong women. And they're like, well, she's not overly sexualized, and they didn't give her a huge bust, and they didn't have her panty line showing, and thus this character is just not here for me because you're a chauvinist. Like, I think that's a big chunk of people who dislike her, and I think another chunk is there are so many controversial and triggering design decisions in 13 overall that I think how good of a character Lightning is really gets overlooked. Um, so that's what I'm sticking to. And then my final ranking is Clive. And not only is Clive elite, I think Clive is the only one in the elite category where I will not listen to an argument that he is not elite. We see him as a child, as a young adult, as a full grown adult. He goes through multiple different sagas of the story. He goes through an extreme amount of character progression. It is the most single character focused story that any Final Fantasy has ever had, and it was executed brilliantly. By the way, shout out to his voice actor. He crushed it. Um, there's actually a really cool video of him and the guy that voices Vincent Valentine in the 7 Remake series doing a podcast together. And the story of how he found out that he was voicing Clive is quite adorable. But Clive is a lead in every possible way you can be. Central character to the plot, he is the plot, quite literally. Um, Writing, character, delivery, all of those extremely good. Character development, like multiple arcs for a character. You go to from the love story element, the friendship element, the mother. Oh my God, the mother. The relationship with his brother. Like all of these things are part of Clive's story and carried by this character. And yet, he's despite all of that, you would expect him to become a very dark, brooding, angry, self-destructive character, and he doesn't. And it does it in a realistic way. It's not done in a shonen anime way. Um, Deserves a ton of credit for that. And yeah, I'm not really listening to anyone who doesn't want to put that as an elite main character. Now, not liking the game and design decisions and some of the other things, different video, different conversation. But as a main character, Clive is as good as it gets. So that's my ranking of the main characters in the Final Fantasy games, mainline games only. Can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts. You can find me. I'm on Twitch, Brian's RNR. That's for ranting and raving because Brian's always ranting and raving. And you can find me as ranting and raving on YouTube as well. Anybody who watched, appreciate it. And yeah, leave your comments, leave your thoughts, and I'll be posting a lot more of this type of thing related to the Final Fantasy series here over the next few weeks slash couple of months because I decided I want to do it and it sounds like fun, so I'm gonna do it. Hope you guys enjoy.